Hey guys, Space Marine 658 here, and today we're talking about Port Winston. Historically, Port Winston was actually a mulberry harbor that was used during World War II on the British beaches. In fact, it was one of the most important. I believe it was something like 2.5 million, 2.5 million men, 500,000 vehicles, and 4 million tons of supplies passed over before it was decommissioned. And because of that, to kind of honor that legacy, I have named the main station in the game after that harbor. To me, it made the most sense. I tried to look around for a few different options just to kind of see, what I wanted to go with, and I felt like that was a pretty good one. Provided a pretty pivotal role during that, and that's what this is sort of going to be. Port Winston in the game is your refueling station, your safe harbor, as it were. It is the one place you can go back to repair, recoup, and it has its own defenses, as you can see here in this. This is an early version of it, but you can see here it's got its own little laser or railgun turrets, actually, and then some. You can't really see them very well, but there's some PDC spots here as well. But yeah, so Port Winston is where you are going to get fuel, where you are going to make any changes to the vehicle. So, when you're picking your loadout for a particular mission, when you're getting ready to go hunt somebody, this is where you'll do it. Because changing on the fly is a lot harder, especially because you're not going to be carrying the kind of missiles. If you're only running basic missiles, you're not going to be carrying grazers to swap out to. So changing your loadout is going to be done here. Any kind of upgrades or repair done with scrap, that's going to be all done here, just depending on what exactly that is. But yeah, so this is sort of the model as it is currently. It is going to probably change a bit, but at least for now, this is what it currently is. And it's sort of implementation in game, so I can kind of show you guys off how it currently works. So we'll go ahead and play. So as it is right now, you'll roll up to a station docking port, and you'll dock to the station, and then from there, it's going to give you this UI, which is still, of course, all this is subject to change. It's just trying to get it somewhat functioning. You can refuel on the left, and then on the right, you can actually change your loadout. So in here, this is where you'll actually be able to do all of the things that will make changes to your ship. This won't just be a loadout. Eventually I'll change that name to something like, Visit the Armory or something to change your loadout. But in here, we've got 5 missile tubes. So there's 5 missile slots here. This is just whatever you've got it currently set to. So we go here, and let's change the middle to the lasers, and we hit apply. Close this, open back up, and boom, there's the lasers. And that's actually because it has switched all those over to lasers. So let's actually switch them all to lasers. Hit apply. And then we'll actually leave the station to hit P. Undock. There we go. And let's target this enemy over here. So instead of using the base lasers, which just ram into the enemy to destroy them, this actually shoots off grazer missiles, which, as you can see, might be hard to make out just because of the angle we're at from the ship. So let's actually go a little bit higher. Let's turn off our brakes and go up. We'll come up here somewhere where we might get a bit better view. Come to a stop. Alright. And let's hit that. So we're firing off another salvo. From this angle, we should be able to see them. Yeah, there they go. So as you saw, it fired the missiles, and the lasers were able to actually get in close enough to actually do some damage and destroy the ship. So from here, it's a little early in the morning still. From here, though, it's destroyed the ship, and if the ship was moving or whatever, the leftover remains to keep moving. But yeah, so now we've got destroyed wreckage there. Eventually, you'll be able to actually go in and salvage the wreckage and take stuff from it, including ammo, scrap, things of that nature. But yeah, So let's see here, and I believe that was the big thing I wanted to kind of show off and go over. Was that there's a few other things in the works that are currently being worked on. For example, these ships are right now. This is sort of a mixed bag right here. This has some PDC, but then also some railguns. Eventually, there's going to be a lot of different enemy types, and they may even work together in concert. So you may have a small flotilla of ships that you have to take down that may have, one PDC ship, one railgun carrier, and then a couple of small destroyers or something that just have light armament. But the idea is that you will have to take them on in different ways. So, for example, the PDC cruiser, or I guess, PDC craft, you can't just spew a bunch of missiles at it because while, eventually you might be able to overwhelm it, you're going to burn through all of your missiles, assuming that you can actually burn through them quick enough to actually take it out. Most likely you won't be able to, because even just basic ships are going to have PDC, but not very much of it. But the PDC ship, its entire job is to take out missiles, so it's going to have a lot of countermeasures. It's going to have ECCM flares. It's going to have all kinds of countermeasures for missiles that just make them go haywire. So missiles are not going to be your best bet. Versus something like a railgun carrier is not going to have a whole lot of PDC, just a couple in the most vulnerable areas where it needs the most protection. So they can easily be overwhelmed. They're mostly just to provide backup PDC, and especially in large groups, a number of ships with PDC could probably protect themselves from certain angles, but that won't be the majority of their focus. So that's sort of the idea behind a lot of the ship designs. Is you're fighting as a solo ship. Now this is of course not complete, but your job is you are supposed to be doing hit and run. However that ends up being, that's kind of your choice when taking on targets. But playing it smart and figuring out what your targets are and how to hit them properly is going to be your best bet. So eventually the goal is with all these missile types is to have more than just the basic and grazer. You're going to have ECM missiles. You're going to have counter ECCM missiles. So you have some missiles that target the PDC to try and confuse them. But then you also have some missiles that their job is to shoot down flares. So they go in with the regular missiles in one big salvo. So you have say 100 missiles going towards the enemy ship. And you'll have some that'll target the PDC to try and stop it. Some that'll target the flares to try and stop them. And then you have some base missiles and grazer missiles, or whichever you decide to choose for that. And their job is to get in close and actually hit the target. The reason why you want the other ones is to provide backup, So if you're targeting a ship that's like, for example, a PDC ship, you're probably going to want to load heavy on the ECM missiles that are going to actually try and block those PDCs. Because the more of those you block, the better. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to be easy, even if you have a full complement, but it's going to have a hell of a lot better chance with something like that than just basic missiles, which are their only jobs to go as fast as they can. And that's sort of the idea with that. And but yeah, so that's what I've been working on. I'm still implementing the other missile types. That's why you haven't seen them demonstrated here. But eventually I'll have them demonstrated. And the goal is, I am still working on the PDC turrets because they do seem to not be quite as accurate as they should be. They seem to miss the missiles a lot. So that's something I am working on, getting them to be a bit more accurate and to be a bit faster. That way, it does take significant amount of fire time to actually light them up. And part of that is distance. The closer you are to the target, the easier it will be to actually hit them, because the PDC has less time to respond to the missiles. And eventually PDCs will have a bit further range than what they do now. This is all, of course, going to be balanced out once all of the mechanics are in. I slowly have been balancing them as time goes on, but I like to save the big changes for the end, because the scale of this is going to be a bit different with the ships that are in when I finally actually finish modeling those, which are coming pretty well. It's just, it takes time to model those kind of things, so I'm working on the basic mechanics. But yeah, so that's what I have so far. It is getting pretty late in November. We're almost to December, and December is when I want to have the MVP. So my goal by the end of December is to have at least a couple more missile types, the ability to repair as well as partially upgrade your ship, the ability to salvage, and then a few other small things I want to have in there. And then I want to add the actual models, at least hopefully by then I'll have the models done for the main player ship and at least one of the enemy ships. That's the plan, at least. How accurate that is, we'll see when it comes closer to time. But yeah, that's the goal, and that'll be sort of MVP, because with the MVP I want to show off, the gameplay loop, the basic core of the loop, which is go to the station, repair, recuperate, grab a target, say it's like a cruiser that you picked up on the station sensors that's getting a little too close to the station. So you go out and you hunt down that cruiser and you take it out. Now you want to be, stealthy with it, or if you want to just go guns blazing, that'll be something I want to try and start incorporating into the gameplay loop. So certain gameplay styles get encouraged, but are not outright meta necessarily. But we'll see. But anyways, that is it for today. So if you liked this video, definitely leave a like. I know the normal YouTuber stuff. Subscribe down below. But otherwise, good luck and good hunting.